Hello and welcome back to my channel. Before we get started, please subscribe, like, and feel free to be part of the conversation by simply sharing your comments in the comment section down below. So in today's video, we talk about Hispanic culture on issues to do with racism. In the videos that I've compiled for you guys, you will hear different Hispanic people share how their culture is racist. Now, part of their culture is to frown upon dark-skinned people. Now, according to them, this was something that was passed down to them by the people who colonized them by making them believe, or telling them rather, to say that dark skin is inferior and palm color skin is superior. Now, you will be surprised that this happens even within their own community. Latinos that are light-skinned and those who are dark-skinned are treated differently because those with a dark skin tone are seen as black people. So check out these videos as different Hispanic men and women share this with us and their different experiences. I will be right back, and when I do, we talk more about this topic.
When Latinos claim that light-skinned and darker-skinned Latinos are treated the same, it's always amusing to me. Yesterday, my sister called me to talk about this incident that happened at school with my darker-skinned niece, who is literally the smartest little girl in the world. She speaks Spanish, she speaks Arabic, she speaks English. She's gotten a straight A honor roll for the past 4 years in a row, and all her teachers love her. And she's quite popular. She has little friends too. They come to her house and play with her all the time. But that's not why I got a call from my sister. I got a call because my little niece was in the lunch line, and some little boy came up to her and was like, "Oh, you can't be in this line." And she looked at him confused, like, why? And he said, "Oh, it's because you're black." My niece is 8. She didn't even know how to respond to this question, so she just let him cut her and just didn't say anything. And when she got home and told her parents, she was like, "Why did he call me black when I'm not black? I'm Mexican and Salvadorian." Her parents had to explain to her that that boy made that comment to try and make fun of her skin tone. So all you Latinos out there who are still using the term, "Oh, it's just a term of endearment. We're just teasing them. It's all love." You are teaching that to your children. It is being passed down, and they're saying that in schools to my niece. So anyway, my sister and her husband have asked the teacher to contact the child's parents and let them know that their son is colorist and they should be raising him better.
Tell me somebody's colorist without saying they're colorist.
Latinos are colorists, period. And this is not me being shady or, being against Latinos. I'm Latina, but this is completely true. If a baby is born, everybody expects that baby to be. If it's not, people are gonna say, "Ay, está feo," or they're not gonna call it ugly, but they're gonna call it they're gonna assume he's not pretty just because he's not. I've received comments before saying, "Oh my god, you shouldn't go out in the sun because you're gonna get very dark." And this is something I had to unlearn because dark skin is beautiful. But I will always hear these comments, "Ay, she or he, they are pretty, but they're morenos. They are a darker skin tone, so they're not as pretty." And also, if you pay attention in all the telenovelas, in all the shows, who are the protagonists? Yes, people, Latinos. What about the brown people? They are usually the maids, people who clean the house, they jardineros and stuff. So you cannot argue against me. Latinos are some of the most colorist people out there.
Soon as you turn on the television in Mexico, you will see a telenovela with people that look a lot like me.
But that's the problem, isn't it? Whether we identify as venting, passing, or even just a Latina, we benefit from the colorism that is so prevalent in our community. And no hate to this creator herself, because I love the way she advocates for the Latino community and using that privilege to do so. But that's what we need more of. As a Chicana, I can tell you firsthand how frustrating it feels when somebody says, "Well, you don't look Latina." Or, "If you are Latina, then prove it, speak Spanish." Or, "You're one of those Latinas, aren't you?" Tell that to my immigrant mom who raised me, Stuff like that is so invalidating. But at the end of the day, we need to recognize who is most deeply harmed by the colorism that we benefit from. And that is Black and Indigenous Latinos. I say this all not to point blame at this creator or anybody else who uses the caveat of media in Latino America, Mexico specifically. But this is to point out the responsibility we have to use the colorism we benefit from to uplift our more marginalized Latino brothers and sisters. And by uplifting, I do not mean speaking over, I mean amplifying, encouraging, supporting, and creating safe spaces where darker-skinned and Black Latinos can feel comfortable being in spaces that can start on TikTok, that can start in conversations about politics in Latino America, and it can go as far as anywhere and everywhere you want to take it. And we must do this all while not upholding a savior complex, but actively trying to dismantle the colorism that takes place in our communities.
A lot of people don't understand when I say that Mexicans are culturally. They think that I'm calling us openly. We are culturally, and this is how. Part of our culture is to frown upon dark-skinned people. It's been passed down to us by the Spaniards, by our colonizers, by the people that conquered us. Taught us that dark skin is inferior, light skin is superior. We were taught that. It was passed down to us, meaning it's part of our culture. We are culturally in this aspect. That doesn't mean I go out in the streets and want to hurt black people because they're black.
Right, right.
It means that our teachings, the way we're raised, is that we are raised to subconsciously believe that dark skin is inferior and light skin is superior. Another element in our Mexican culture is Univision News, Univision channel. That channel is run by Latinos. The ideologies and subliminal teachings that they teach is very similar to Fox News. Supremacist-ish. They make efforts to depict dark-skinned people as criminals. That whenever they even bother sharing news about dark-skinned people is when they do something wrong. But yet, when they want to mention anything that has to do with light-skinned people specifically, is to depict them as them doing good deeds around the world, feeding the homeless, etc. You get it.
Yeah.
My grandmother was visiting one day from Mexico. She's never lived in the United States. She has no idea what life is out here. She was watching Univision News, where they depicted a black American committing a crime. She turned around and said, "Oye, estos solo estorban, ¿verdad? Hey, these blacks, all they do is get in the way, huh?" Here's the interesting part. She's never met a black person in her life. She has no idea what it's like to interact with a black person, but yet she already has an opinion about black people as a whole. Why? Because part of our culture, in this particular case, Univision News, since we were children, we have been subliminally taught the blacks are bad, criminals, etc. and are good, decent, giving, saviors, etc. We're taught that. Hearing her express such a hateful remark about a people that I knew for a fact she's never even interacted with. You don't even know a black person. How dare you come here to this country and have a whole opinion about these people? I resented her deeply for it. I regret it because you can't hate her for that. She never got the opportunity to learn what you have. I got the privilege of learning things that I self-taught. Since she's been a child, she's been working in the fields. Never had the opportunity to sit and read a book to educate, nothing. All she ever has to teach her anything was this biased news program. How could I blame her? She doesn't even know any better. And even if I sat with her today, I don't even think I could help her understand at this point. Because she has lived 80 years worth of only understanding this mentality. A lot of people go to their graves thinking this is normal.
Now, while historical legacies such as colonization may have left lasting impacts, individual beliefs and attitudes are shaped by a multitude of factors, including personal experiences, education, and exposure to diverse perspectives. As we explore this topic, let's consider the nuances of how attitudes are formed and how individuals with Hispanic communities may hold a range of opinions. Colonization has indeed played a significant role in shaping perceptions of race and contributing to systemic inequalities. The historical legacies of colonization often include the imposition of hierarchies based on skin color, which can influence societal attitudes and structures. Now, in the context of Hispanic communities, the impact of colonization varies across regions and histories, but it has been a factor in shaping societal dynamics and attitudes towards race. Expanding on the influence of colonization, it's crucial to note that European colonial powers historically implemented systems of racial hierarchy and discrimination in many regions. Now, this often involved categorizing people based on skin skin color with accompanying socio-economic and political implications. In the context of Hispanic communities, the legacy of colonization has left lasting effects, shaping societal structures and attitudes toward race. The hierarchical classifications established during colonization have in some cases contributed to deeply ingrained perceptions of superiority or inferiority based on skin tone. Now, furthermore, the exploitation of marginalized of certain racial or ethnic groups during colonization have had enduring consequences. These historical power dynamics have influenced societal norms and contributed to the perpetuation of stereotypes and biases. Now, European colonial powers implemented systems of racial hierarchy through a concept known as casta in the Hispanic colonies. The casta system was a complex social structure that classified individuals based on their ancestry, particularly focusing on racial and ethnic heritage. Now, this hierarchical classification has significant implications for social status, economic opportunities, and legal rights. The casta system typically consisted of various categories that reflected different racial mixtures. Now, these categories included designations such as peninsulars, those born in Spain, Creoles, those of European descent born in the Americas, mestizos, mixed European and indigenous ancestry, and other classifications for various racial combinations. Now, the teachings under this system reinforced the idea of racial hierarchy, with individuals of European descent considered superior to those with mixed or indigenous ancestry. The discriminatory practices stemming from this system included restrictions on marriage, occupation opportunities, and social privileges based on one's assigned caste. Now, through education, colonial powers propagated ideologies that justified and normalized these hierarchical structures. Eurocentric views were often emphasized, reinforcing the notion of European superiority. Now, these teachings contributed to the establishment of deeply rooted social norms and attitudes that persisted long after the colonial period, shaping the racial dynamics within Hispanic communities. It's important to note that the specifics of the casta system could vary across different regions and time periods, but the overarching influence of European colonial powers in shaping racial hierarchies is a common historical thread. Now, in addition to the casta system, European colonial powers also employed various mechanisms to institutionalize racial hierarchy within Hispanic communities. These included legal codes, social norms, and economic practices that perpetuated discrimination based on race and ethnicity. When we talk about legal codes, this is where colonizers established laws that systemically favored individuals of European descent. Now, these laws, often known as the laws of the Indies, prescribe different rights and privileges based on one's racial background. Legal distinctions reinforce the idea of a social hierarchy with harsher penalties and restrictions imposed on those with non-European ancestry. Social norms. Colonial societies were often structured around social norms that emphasized the perceived superiority of individuals of European descent, meaning that marriage between different racial groups was often discouraged or even prohibited. Social events, religious practices, and educational systems further reinforced these norms, contributing to stratification of communities along racial lines. Economic opportunities were often tied to one's racial background. Europeans and those of European descent were given preferential treatment in terms of land ownership, business opportunities, and access to resources. Now, this economic disparity reinforced social hierarchies, creating lasting inequalities that persisted beyond the colonial period. Religious influence. The Catholic Church, closely aligned with colonial powers, played a significant role in shaping attitudes toward race. Religious teachings sometimes supported the idea of European superiority and contributed the justification of discriminatory practices. Missionaries were also involved in the categorization of individuals based on their racial background. Now, understanding these historical mechanisms provides insights into the deep-rooted nature of racial hierarchies within Hispanic communities. While contemporary societies have made strides in challenging these historical legacies, the impact of colonial-era ideologies continues to influence social dynamics and perceptions of race in various regions. The historical legacy of colonial-era racial hierarchies, including the casta system and associated discriminatory practices, has undoubtedly left a lasting impact on the cultural dynamics within Hispanic communities. It has contributed to ingrained social norms and attitudes, which in some cases may manifest as biases against individuals with darker skin tones. Now, colorism, the discrimination based on skin color within the same racial or ethnic group, can have profound and detrimental effects on individuals and communities. When the perception that lighter skin is superior and darker skin is inferior prevails, it can lead to various negative consequences, such as psychological impact. Colorism can contribute to a negative self-image and lower self-esteem among individuals with darker skin tones. Those who internalize these biases may develop feelings of inadequacy or shame about their natural appearance. social and economic inequality. Colorism can result in disparities in social and economic opportunities. Individuals with lighter skin tones may be favored in areas such as employment, education, and relationships, while those with darker skin tones may face discrimination and limited access to resources. It can also affect interpersonal relationships, leading to biases in friendships, romantic partnerships, and social circles. It may contribute to perpetuation of exclusive beauty standards and social hierarchies based on skin color. Studies have suggested a link between experiences of discrimination based on skin color and mental health issues such as anxiety and depression. Additionally, individuals who feel marginalized due to colorism may be more vulnerable to stress-related health problems. It can influence cultural identity by reinforcing Eurocentric beauty standards and marginalizing diverse representations. This may lead to the erasure of cultural practices and features associated with darker skin tones, impacting a community's sense of pride and heritage. Colorism often intersects with other forms of discrimination such as racism, sexism, creating compounded challenges for individuals who face multiple layers of marginalization. We have come to the end of the video. What do you have to say about this? Share your comments down below in the comment section. Thank you for watching and see you in my next video.